Republicans, for their parts, are going to continue to push more and more and more for Joe Biden not just to step out of the nominee position, but to step out of the presidency entirely, which they should. We are now in extraordinarily dangerous waters. Again, we have a president who is not sentient. He's not running for re-election. He's a lame duck. He has no support. And he is going to be in charge of the country until at least January, unless Kamala Harris does something about that. So serious pressure should be put on Kamala Harris. She should be asked, do you think that Joe Biden is mentally well? Do you think Joe Biden is mentally well? That's a live question, not because Joe Biden's the nominee, but because Joe Biden's the president. And the person responsible for invoking the 25th Amendment would be, wait for it, Kamala Harris. The number one question she should be asked over and over and over again, aside from obviously all of her policies and her failures at the border, the number one question is your boss fit to be president today? She should be forced to answer that, because if the answer is no, she actually does have the capacity to stop this entire charade. And if the answer is yes, then she's lying. And we know that that's the case. We know that that's the truth. That is going to be a very telling point with regard to Nancy Pelosi. Again, on the other side of the aisle, the system has changed a little bit with regard to Donald Trump. I think that what Democrats are thinking with this election is we get rid of Biden and everybody will come back to us. We get rid of Biden and now we are not going to really need to run anything. We'll just shout Trump from the rooftops and that will have the desired effect. I don't think that that's true for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is that Donald Trump is actually now presenting an incredibly moderate face in the middle of this race. And number two, the permission structure for normies, for normal people to say they are voting for Donald Trump has already been created, and you can't undo that. So again, the going theory, as I've said many, many times, of this campaign, whoever this campaign is a referendum on is going to lose. So for a while it was Biden. And now the Democratic theory is we get rid of Biden and it'll go back to being Trump. It's not quite that simple. And it's not quite that simple for two specific reasons. One, Donald Trump is now acting like a moderate. He's acting like a pretty sane moderate, actually. Yeah, he's got his foibles. Yeah, he says some crazy stuff. But in general, his campaign is acting very, very sane and very moderate right now. And two, a permission structure, thanks to the last several months, has been set up where normies can now say a thing they never said out loud in 2016 or in 2020. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is interesting. And you're seeing this particularly in tech land. You already saw Elon Musk come out and say that he is going to drop $45 million a month into the Trump campaign. Over the weekend, Mark Zuckerberg, who's the head of Meta, and who certainly is not known for being particularly Trump-friendly, he was doing an interview and he talked about how Trump's response to his shooting was, in his words, badass. Here was Mark Zuckerberg.
I've done some stuff personally in the past. I'm not planning on doing that this time. And that includes, not endorsing either of the candidates. Now, look, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. The historic events over the weekend. And on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But look, it's, and I think, look, it's, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit and that fight. And I think that that's why a lot of people like the guy.
Okay, that is something that Mark Zuckerberg never would have said publicly before. It's something that tech bros wouldn't say publicly before. A permission structure has been created over the past several months in which normal Americans are now allowed to say they like Trump. They'll wear the red hat. They'll say they're voting for Trump. So that is a big difference between 2016 and 2020 and 2024. And again, in 2024, Donald Trump is running a much more meticulous, much more likable to sort of the general voter campaign. So he did a rally over the weekend. And honestly, many of the things he said in this rally are incredibly moderate. So first of all, he was actually self-effacing, which is something you normally don't see from President Trump. He actually mocked his own hair. Here he was over the weekend.
I have to just interject. If you would turn off those cameras, because I don't want this. See the screen up there of me? That's very severe, that comb over. That's a severe sucker. What's with that one? It looks okay from the other side. But that is very severe. I apologize. Man, I looked up there. I said, whoa. Look at that. Wow. That's like a work of art.
Like self-effacing Trump is a new one and much more likable. Okay, Trump also was asked about Project 2025. He was actually on the campaign trail talking about Project 2025. Remember that Kamala Harris's first comment upon getting the Veep call, the Selena Meyer call, that she was going to be the new candidate, she started yelling about Project 2025. And this has become the Democrats' bugaboo. As I testified before Congress, Eric Swalwell asked me about Project 2025, and I kept saying, Project 2025 for Democrats, like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. You just say it over and over and over, and magically your candidate is alive again. Well, Kamala Harris is also trying to do Project 2025. Well, Trump took it head on in the middle of one of his rallies over the weekend. Here he was on Project 2025.
Some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative, just like you have. They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right, and they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things, and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it.
Okay, so again, I actually think it's pretty unfair to much of what's in Project 2025, which again, I've read, I'm maybe one of the only people alive who's actually read large chunks of it, but President Trump is obviously attempting to grab that sort of middle mode, right? He's attempting to grab the middle of the political spectrum. I mean, he was doing it all over the place this weekend, right? So he was talking about how the media had been accused by people, including me, by the way, of miscovering the shooting originally. That very early on, they were saying things like, Donald Trump ducks after loud noises in crowd. And I was like, really? Come on. If that were Joe Biden, would they say the same thing? Trump ends up defending the press. That's how moderate Trump is trying to be now.
I want to thank Butler Memorial Hospital in Pennsylvania for the incredible job they did and service they gave, and all of the great citizens of Butler, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding area, and everyone else for the job they did and the love that they showed us all. It was incredible, actually. What a time that was. What a time that was. Nobody's seen anything like it. And hopefully they never will again. And they had cameras blazing. I guess it was different in that way, too, because we were right in the middle. All those, see, look at all the news back there. And they were all blazing. They were going. No, they covered it fairly. They couldn't believe what they were seeing either. So,
again, it's the first time he's ever said anything nice about the press right there. And then over the weekend, Donald Trump took a call from Vladimir Zelensky, right, who is the president of Ukraine. And Zelensky talked to him about the assassination attempt. And Trump then released a statement talking about their very good phone call. Quote, I appreciate President Zelensky for reaching out because I, as your next president of the United States, will bring peace to the world and end the war that has cost so many lives and devastated countless innocent families. Like, that sounds pretty moderate. So again, Donald Trump right now has control of the moderate lane in the election. The Democratic Party, even if they come up with Kamala Harris, even if they unify around her, it looks like chaos over there. This means that Donald Trump does have the upper hand. It does also mean the race has changed. And there's no other way to see it other than that the race has radically, radically changed. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.